2025 has a massive amount of sequels and reboots coming out, and as a horror fan, I can't lie, I'm extremely excited. Starting with my most anticipated, you of course have Five Nights at Freddy's 2, releasing December 5th of 2025. Now, there are a ton of ideas and speculation surrounding this movie, but I have a good amount of theories thinking of how this movie's gonna play out. After the original release of Five Nights at Freddy's last year, I assumed that we were gonna be seeing toy characters, which has now loosely been confirmed that we are going to be seeing toy characters in this movie. But hear me out. I also think we're gonna be seeing withered characters in this movie as well, due to the fact that at the end of Five Nights at Freddy's, we saw that the pizzeria was on fire. Abby then asks Mike, "Hey Mike, when are we gonna go back to see my friends?" He says sometime soon, meaning that this movie's gonna be based at least a year in the future, maybe even 3 to 5. And with the pizzeria being on fire, it only makes sense for these characters to turn into their withered counterparts, and looking a lot more scary and devious because of course the fire. Now we also have to remember that Spring Bonnie, aka Matthew Lillard, is still alive, meaning that he's probably going to somehow control these characters once again, take them from being the withered characters, get them to be strong enough, and turn them into toy characters. Now listen, this is all speculation. Nothing has been fully announced or is concrete evidence yet, but trust me when I tell you, I genuinely think this movie is going to be peak. Now, yes, it's PG-13 for anybody wondering. I was assuming it's going to be rated R, but you also have to think of fan base. They have a massive child fan base, and as a full-blown adult watching the original Five Nights at Freddy's movie and taking people who watched this movie who were also adults, they genuinely enjoyed it without knowing any lore or any backstory. So I think Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is going to be an absolute peak movie next year. We then have to talk about the Saw franchise, which is going to be coming out with Saw 11 later next year. That releasing September 26th of 2025. Now, the movie was delayed. It was supposed to be coming out this year, but they needed to take a little bit more time, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. With how good Saw X was, I'm okay with them taking a little bit more time to fine-tune this movie and make it a little bit better than they thought it was going to be. I also think it's absolutely amazing that Tobin Bell's going to be returning as John Kramer, pretty much meaning that we're going to be basing it off of the story from Saw X. Because not only did John Kramer survive, Amanda also survived. We ended up seeing Mark Hoffman in the end credits scene, where he ends up killing Henry, who originally set John Kramer up with Cecilia. We also know that Cecilia survived in Saw X. She technically did survive her trap, meaning that John Kramer, Cecilia, Amanda, and of course Mark Hoffman are all going to be, in my opinion, coming back in Saw 11. I think it's going to be loosely based off the fact that Cecilia is going to hire hitmen or something like that on John Kramer, and he's going to have to defend himself with the traps. Not only by himself though, with Amanda and Mark Hoffman. As I said, this is just a speculation, this is just how I feel. The only thing that has yet been confirmed is the release date, on top of the fact that Tobin Bell is going to be coming back as John Kramer. I don't know if this is going to be his final feat, because if you listen and pay attention to the storylines, he technically already died, but this is a newer storyline based off of an original storyline. It's a lot. But if you keep up with the storyline, you'll understand. Now, as I said, Saw X was one of my favorite movies that came out last year. It was genuinely insane, and I absolutely love the storyline that they played with John Kramer in this movie, because it wasn't just senseless kills and senseless traps. It all made sense, and in my personal opinion, they all deserved it. We then have my absolute favorite franchise in the world, Scream, which is going to be coming out with Scream 7, releasing February 27, 2025. Now, there's been a whole lot of hiccups and a whole lot of mix-ups with this whole entire movie. The fact that we're not going to be continuing with the Carpenter sisters or knowing absolutely anything about the rest of their storyline, because obviously Scream 7 was supposed to be the end of the Carpenter sisters storyline, and that's kind of figuring out what was really going on. And what sucks is, in my opinion, Scream 6 was one of the best Screams we've seen ever. In my opinion, Scream 1 and Scream 6 are top 2. So the fact that we're not going to be seeing the ending of the Carpenter sisters or knowing what's going on with them kind of irritates me, on top of the fact that we're going to be seeing yet another movie based off of Sidney Prescott. No offense to Neve Campbell, I absolutely love her. I'm glad that she's finally getting the money she deserves, but how many times are we going to see a movie based on her storyline? It's supposedly going to be based on her kids and the fact that there's a killer trying to kill her kids and her husband. It's just too much. We know all the backstory about her. We know the backstory about her mom. We know the backstory about her dad. I think it's a little bit drawn out. I completely understand. And in my opinion, the only thing that's going to save this is them creating a completely different timeline, which in my opinion would mean that they have to bring back Dewey, because I'm still mad about his death. He should still be alive. There's also talks that Courtney Cox is coming back. So honestly, there's a lot going on with Scream 7. There's also a little bit of hints that Matthew Lillard might be coming back, because technically he did not die in the original Scream. That's what they're going off of. I didn't think he originally died in Scream anyways, but there's a possibility that Stu Macher might be coming back in this movie as well. It might just be a massive nostalgia hit. And I'm going to be honest, if they create a brand new timeline, making it a little bit, I don't know how they're going to do it. But I guess it would be kind of cool if they bring back the original killers from the original Scream movie in Scream 7 as kind of like a fresh start reboot, and then Scream 8 bring in brand new characters and start a brand new timeline. All in all, the Scream franchise is always the same. I just really enjoyed the Carpenter sisters' whole storyline itself. And the fact that we're not getting an ending to their storyline definitely upsets me a little bit. We then have Insidious Chapter 6. Now, all in all, I was a massive fan of the first 3 Insidiouses, and then they kind of lost me, especially with the last installment, the brand new Insidious The Red Door. In my opinion, it was the same exact movie as the original, a more or less reboot, except they're older and the kid is in college. That's it. He's overtaken by a demon painting, which in the original movie, he was in a coma. It's pretty much the same exact storyline where the dad has to go into the further, save his son, except the son is now an adult. We have to come up with some new concepts, some new ideas. I'm not saying that the movie is going to be bad. I'm just saying I don't know where they're going to go with the storyline, because we need something else. There's also really no information released on this movie yet, so when some articles do come out, I will be sure to make a video. We then have M3GAN 2.0. Now, if you know anything about me, you know that I was not a a massive fan of the original M3GAN movie. I know that's a hot take, and I know people really did enjoy that movie. I just thought it was what Chucky could have been, but Chucky wasn't. We have an AI TikTok dancing robot who's killing people because she's protecting someone else. It kind of sounds a little Chucky-ish, except like I said, the robot is doing TikTok dances. That was the only thing that really threw me off. It was more comedy-based than it was actual horror, when Chucky is 10 times scarier. Now, that's just a comparison that I make, that Chucky and M3GAN are kind of like the same character. One is a toy, one is a robot. Obviously, M3GAN is a lot smarter and stronger in theory, but I just didn't care for it. For what I understand in M3GAN 2.0, they're going to be adding in a brand new AI robot, pretty much going against M3GAN. It's going to be like some weird war kind of thing. There isn't really much information on the actual movie itself, because obviously it comes out next year. But unfortunately for me, before that movie releases, I am going to watch M3GAN again to make sure that the movie is just as bad as I thought it was. We then have Black Phone 2, releasing October 17th, which in my opinion, the way Black Phone ended, I didn't see that we were going to be seeing a sequel. It seems as though the grabber lost to the kid, and now they're making a part 2. I'm not really sure where they're going to be getting that or where they're going to be going with the storyline. I think it could be cool because the grabber's character is pretty dope. But once again, this is one of those movies that we have zero information about. It was just announced that it's going to be coming out. Now, I have high hopes for that because some of these Blumhouse movies that have come out recently have been pretty good. Blumhouse is usually hit or miss. In my opinion, the older Blumhouse movies, the lower budgeted Blumhouse movies, the original Blumhouse movies are way better than the newer ones, but that is just me. We then have I Know What You Did Last Summer, once again, releasing July 18th. Now, from my understanding, they're going to be bringing back the original cast from the original 1997 I Know What You Did Last Summer, which in my opinion is a very good movie. I genuinely do enjoy that movie. But this is one of those franchises where we've had so many movies come out from this actual franchise itself, having to do with I Know What You Did Last Summer, I Know What You Did Last Summer, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think there's like 7 or 8. It's getting a little drawn out. I appreciate you bringing back the original cast because, as I said, the 1997 version, the original movie, is genuinely good in my opinion. All in all, I think I Know What You Did Last Summer could be a fun movie. I'm hoping it's going to be a fun movie, but we gotta stop. And the final sequel, or the final series horror movie, at least that's been announced so far, is The Conjuring: The Last Rites, which is set to be the last Conjuring movie having to do with Ed and Lorraine Warren. We're going to be getting a TV show, from what I understand, based off of the cases that we haven't seen movies about. The only thing I'm hoping is that this case is worth making a final movie about. We've had a lot of movies in the Conjuring franchise that did not need their own movie. La Llorona, I always say it wrong. In my opinion, the movie is not good. You then have, of course, the Annabelle series, which is fantastic, but then you have that partial Nun series, which in my opinion, Valak was a terrifying character without having her own movie. You then have The Nun and The Nun 2, and in my opinion, they are terrible movies. They're not scary, corny jump scares, storyline isn't great. It's just unneeded. So us being able to have this final Conjuring movie having to do with Ed and Lorraine Warren, the original Conjuring movie is fantastic. The second Conjuring movie, meh, okay. The other one that came out like 2 or 3 years ago, in my opinion, was absolutely terrible. It was one of the worst Conjuring movies that has been ever released. And The Conjuring is one of my favorite all-time movies just because it's so eerie, so scary, and honestly a good time. So with this movie, The Conjuring: The Last Rites, it being the last story, the final chapter in the Ed and Lorraine Warren story, before of course it goes into a TV series going off of a lot of cases that they did not cover in movies, it needs to be good. It needs to be peak. If they want the Conjuring series to go out the way that it should, the way that it came in, being absolutely amazing, this movie needs to be absolute peak. As I said, we are going to be getting a Conjuring TV show based off of the cases that we did not see in movies. But all in all, I am excited for The Conjuring: The Last Rites. I think it's going to be hit or miss. I'm really hoping that it's a hit. So those are all of the horror movie sequels and movies that are being pretty much reintroduced coming out next year. I know I took a little bit of a hiatus. I went on vacation, then I got lazy and I started streaming. So if you guys are interested in anything having to do with the streaming, I live stream every single day, kick.com/ChristopherKiley. Live every day. I'm usually playing games or doing this or playing zombies or doing this and that. Pretty much just interacting with chat and having a great time. Streaming is something that I actually recently come into and I actually genuinely enjoy it. So if that's something that you guys are interested in, you guys can find a link down in the description. I might even be live right now. All in all, I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the recent support on the channel. We are kicking it back up to 2 to 3 times a week, probably 3 times a week. I just had to take a little bit of a break and get myself ready to start grinding again. With all of that being said though, guys, my name is Chris, and of course, I will catch you guys in the next one.